Good afternoon, welcome to Hairdressing Live. I'm ecstatic to be here today. My name's Andrew Heasman. I'm the International Creative Director for Rush, and you're at the Rush Studios today. This is my model, Krishna. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of walk you through our latest collection, which is Tomboy. The whole idea of Tomboy is a kind of a genderless approach to fashion. You know, we were looking at people like Tom Ford, people like Gucci in this season. And we've kind of, what we've done with hair is we've kind of worked the approach of a kind of orbital and elongated approach. So you're kind of conflicting shapes through the hair. So I've started with Krishna's hair. I'm going to work with a little bit of counterbalance. We're going to work with a little bit of movement today as well. So as you can see, I've worked, if I lift her up, hello mate, are you on a movable camera here? Do you want to come over? Come a bit closer as well if you want. I've kind of offset a rectangle. You can see this point here is lower than this point here. So the line is kind of going slightly asymmetric through the back. This, when we work with movement, will give a little bit more expansion through this area. And this will counterbalance through the front end. I will allow slightly more hair to drop lower this side. So I'm working with a slight counterbalance. This is a kind of asymmetric, what we call this is a triple C. So if you look at the shape of the section, it's a C shape with a C with a C. I halve the rectangle in the top just for cleanness, okay? So now I'm going to start, what I'm going to start to do, I'm going to work with a graduation through the back. Really quite classical, really. So I'm going to drop Krishna's head very, very slightly. And I'm going to start to work through the centre, taking fine sections below the occipital bone. So I'm going to isolate the right-hand side first. Just get this really straight. I think it's important sectioning, really. Work as clean as you can. Clean work, I think, is imperative in this game. So we're going to work on the left-hand side first. This is the side where I work inside my fingers. Knuckle faces in. Everything okay there? Am I facing the right place, guys? Just to ask. So I'm just going to pop the head slightly forward. Working underneath the O-bone, I'm going to take my first very slim area underneath the O-bone. Going to work by graduating the hair into the nape. My next section working very slightly above that and working out. Now, at Rush, we educate all about the way what sections do and how we use them. Vertical sections obviously remove the most amount of weight because of the angle of our fingers. Diagonal sections will direct the weight, which is kind of what we're going to play with today. I'm working with vertical diagonal at the moment and working across the head shape. I'm going to be very mindful when I start to hit this area where the head starts to curve in. Because at this point, I'm going to start to work slightly more stationary and start to direct the hair back to that line. So I'm being very careful not to lose the corner. So at the moment, just working with a very basic shape of graduation. I'll work with the left-hand side, then I'll cross-check that process, make sure it's exactly what I wanted, and then I'm able to move on to the right-hand side. Now at this point, I'm starting to build up a nice curve. So I'm going to start to graduate and build up a nice curvature, so I wrap that weight around the O-bone. This haircut's got lots of disconnection in it. I'm going to be working with lots of panels. Basically, that whole panel on the top is going to be disconnected from the underneath. I'm going to allow that to fall over. That's to create expansion and separation within the curl. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to contradict this area, which I'm going to push the direction forward, and through the front, I'm going to work front to back and work shorter to longer in the opposite direction and build up a beautiful box shape, a square shape in the mastoid. But I'm going to do it using pivotal sectioning. So you can see now my sections are starting to work slightly more horizontal. If I turn that around, you can start to see the triangular shape appearing into the graduation. Taking very fine sections, now working horizontal in the shape, and each section being elevated slightly higher than the previous. So my graduation flows. My body position is key here. I'm very static. I've not moved around for the control of the shape. So I'm ensuring that I'm building up more weight behind the ear. So next section, elevate very slightly higher. Now after this section, I'm going to cross-check. Because of the nature of the way I've worked, where I've started to turn my sections and working diagonal, I'm going to take my sections in the opposite way. Elevate out and check. Very good result. Now you can see that triangular line. So 3 or 4 more sections left. Remembering to elevate higher with each section. Now working with the curvature, making sure the weight wraps around the O-bone, but not building up too much. I don't want to build up a really old-fashioned shape. Remember, this isolated area is going to be dropping over the back. So I do need to close down that certain area. You can see by the way I'm working with really fine sections, there's no question mark. Your guide is being followed. Last section on this side. If you want to protect that little bit more weight behind the ear, just lower your elevation very slightly, which is what I've done. If I turn her around now, you can really see point A, point B is working in a triangular line. When I move the hair, it's a very soft graduation, not building up too much weight. If I wanted to build up more, if it was my option to build up slightly more, what I would probably do is work more horizontal. So I built up more of a rounded line to the haircut. I've got to go right the way back to the centre here. Ensuring I don't go off. On the right hand side now, fingers pointing down, knuckles out, and following the same process that I did the other side. I find it easier for me on this when I slightly comb from the back and onto the base and make sure that I'm still drifting 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3. This is a number system we work to when we kind of talk, when we're over directing the hair to previous, we talk in numbers. 1 being our profile section, our guideline. 2 then comes on to 1, then 3, then comes on to 2. Now this will ensure you get a straight parallel line. Keeping my sections exactly the same, starting diagonal and ending horizontal, and we call this pivotal. It's where you pivot your sections. You're controlling your weight direction. Please. Yeah. Well, I've started with Krishna's hair with what we call a triple C section, Paul, and it's this is a section where it goes from both sides of a session. This particular section, I've started flatter, gone lower towards the left-hand side, and then gone higher into lower. So therefore, I'm building a little bit. When I dry the hair in a natural natural texture, excuse me, I'm going to get a slight expansion through this area. And the hair's going to be worn to the right-hand side, right-hand side, yes, sorry. Get my rights and lefts right here because I've not got a mirror. The right is going to be heavier here, and then the left through the back is going to be more expanded here. So, first section, then I'm graduating the back. I'm using pivotal sectioning, and I'm directing each section 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, just so I get weight building up behind the ears. Now to control, if I want slightly more weight behind the ears, what I've explained so far is I lower my elevation. As I become horizontal, I will start to lower my elevation just behind the ear. That would just build up slightly more weight. If I turn that round for you guys, you can really sort of see the shape. Now, because the head's round, obviously working parallel, on a graduation, when the hair sits naturally, it's going to sit triangular. Okay? So I'm just carrying on. Each section just drifting back onto the last one. And now I'm going to start to work into a horizontal line. One of the things that I find very important with our education is the way that we use our combs and our tension, because I think with hairdressers, you know, one thing you really have to understand when you're working with your classics is how to control your tension. You know, how hard you pull the hair. Do I pull the hair too much? Do I not use enough? I think in this particular, whenever I'm working with interior shapes, depending, you know, with this particular hair, it's not that curly, it's just got that little bit of movement. So I'm using the fine end of the comb. And the fine end of the comb is basically creating my tension for me. I'm not stretching the hair and putting too much pressure on the hair. That would be bad, because I risk the fact that I might get knuckle marks, or it might be uneven within each section. I allow the comb to do most of it and seal my fingers at the end to get a really clean line. So now I'm getting to that point now where the hairline's slightly weaker, so my elevation drops very slightly through this area. This is to control and leave slightly more weight in these areas. There you are. Sorry guys, let me just turn a little bit. Sorry about that. Do apologise. So now I'm working diagonal, horizontal. Elevation is key here. Now we've been I spoke a little bit about Tomboy. Tomboy is our latest collection that we've just released at Sun International, and it was a kind of trying to create a genderless approach to hair. It doesn't mean all the haircuts were boyish. There was lots of long lengths in it, there was lots of texture. It was a very varied collection. But what it was was we was always using opposing shapes in the hair. So what you're going to see me do today is work a really nice graduation, and then you're going to watch me elongate the shape through the sides and flatten. What I'd like to do now is introduce my next model, just to show you, give you an example of what we released and talk a little bit about it. Just so we can get a little bit of a background and a bit of a story. Come through, Sophie, sorry. This is Sophie, and she was actually one of the key girls at the collection launch, actually. The colour was done by Mr. Chris Williams, our international colour director. I believe he works with these, on this particular, he's worked with a slight copper and a pink, and he's really mused it through. And he's worked with a really nice fade there. What have I done with Sophie's hair? So if I turn Sophie round, I've worked with a really simple graduation through the back. This was started vertical and just directed towards the ear. Just exactly the same as you'll see me work now. Then I've worked a bi-level through the left-hand side. This is where I've just basically cut a very clean line using point cutting. And all I've done is just elevated, just finger elevation, just very lightly graduated it, just to give a slight bevel to the edge. Okay? The opposite side, just lift this up with Sophie, what I've done, just undercut through the left-hand side of the right-hand side of the shape. Now this is to obviously, you know, what I'm trying to create here, the whole idea of the collection is, it's all about opposing shapes. So if you look at Sophie here, we've worked with a very rounded graduation. And the opposite side, we've worked with a flattening undercut. So it's creating the whole idea of square and flat, round and soft. But when you lay the top over, it creates the same silhouette. And that's kind of how we're trying to play the shapes. It's about creating a little bit of a playful contradiction internally. And I hope you like that. You know, nice and simple, work with a very, very simple refining technique through the underneath. Really, really simple horizontal graduation. You know, when I check it horizontally, it's square. But obviously what you're seeing then is you're seeing, because the head's round, you're getting that slightly triangular approach. Just refine the outline with point cutting. I really like what he's done, deepen this kind of underneath, so it shadowed it and framed the haircut for us. I hope you like that, guys. Really nice, quite simple, just a simple paneling technique and just contradicting the shapes on either side. Oh yeah, obviously as well, if I lift Sophie up, you can kind of see this curve I've placed into the haircut. Rather than being flat and square, rounded on the overlay. Okay? Cheers, Sophie. Thank you. So I'm coming back to Krishna. Each section now. Back to the previous, or back to that same shape, but elevating as I work through on this right-hand side. Making sure I don't build up too much weight. And if I want to protect more weight as I get to the ear, just lower my elevation. Very simple. So I'm lifting in this area as I'm working through. I slightly drop my elevation. Hope you guys can all see me there. My body position good for you guys? Good. Lovely. You can see now, same as the other side, working triangular towards the ear.
Welcome to Hairdressing Live. I'm Eugene Suleiman.
Hairdressing Live is the future of education, and I'm Christelle Landquist, the Global Creative Technical Director for TG.
Welcome to Hairdressing Live. I'm Alan Smith, the founder of Fantastic Hairdressing.
Hairdressing Live, the future of education, and I'm Tom Connell.
This is Hairdressing Live.